Hi everyone, I'm Gabriel and this is Black Force Comics Weekly Review, Episode 11. So today we're going to go over different comics that came out this past week. We're going to talk about next week's comics and some news that came out this week. So let's get started with this week's comic. First one up, S.H.I.E.L.D. 50 Years of S.H.I.E.L.D. Fury #1. Now these were all one-shots. We talked about them before. They had Bobby came out with one, Mockingbird, and then there was a Quake one. Next week is going to be Agent May's Calvary comics. So that's going to be pretty cool. This one is a really interesting comic. A lot of people have said how they expressed sadness because they haven't seen the old Nick Fury. In this comic, you get to see both Samuel L. Jackson and the old Nick Fury together, working together. There's a time displacement thing that goes on, sends Samuel L. Jackson back in time. So it's a cool comic. You got to check it out. I don't want to tell you too much because it really spoils it, but it's a cool comic with them working together. So get out to your comic book shop, pick this one up. It's worth the read. And it's only a one-shot, complete beginning to end. You're going to have the whole comic right there. Next up, Batgirl #44. Now this is a cool series. If you picked up issue number 43, you saw that Batgirl's friends, they have a group kind of like PETA that they work with called Tigers. Some friends went missing. They were part of this animal support group while they were transporting some tigers illegally. And Batgirl in this issue is going to find one of their friends to see where she is. She ends up running into a villain that kidnapped her friend to steal the tigers to feed people to them. Villains. What can you do about them? So she finds this new villain called Wild Velvet Tiger, and she's fighting Velvet Tiger. Velvet Tiger's got some pretty awesome tech and causes all of Batgirl's tech on her belt to explode at one time. It's pretty awesome. So she loses her, then she goes back and finds her again, finds her friend, manages to save her friend. But towards the end of the battle, and this comic is great because it has a lot of battle scenes where it's not a lot of talking. It's just Barbara Gordon fighting the way Barbara Gordon used to fight, the way Batgirl used to fight. That's the cool stuff I like to read, or I guess look at, because there's not any words to it. But it shows Velvet Tiger beating up Batgirl and drugging her, and right before she passes out, the Batgirl motorcycle comes crashing through the window, talks to her, tells her to get on, we're going to save you, and takes Batgirl away and saves her before she's drugged and killed by the Velvet Tiger. And at the very end of the comic, we find out that it's her roommate created a neural link, kind of the same way that Dr. Octopus did in the Tobey Maguire movies, where he made that neural chip in the back. Her friend did the same concept and made a neural chip that connects her to all the electronics. So now her roommate, her friend, is going to be working with her. So that's a really cool comic if you have a chance. Batgirl's been a great series so far. Check it out. It's a good series. Next up, Book of Death #3 of 4. We're getting closer and closer to the end here with Book of Death. We have the Geomancer with Tamara with the Eternal Warrior, and they're out in the middle of a field in this issue, and they're trying to use the book again. Every time she reads the book, the current Geomancer that's here on Earth with the evil guy, they sense her, and so they try to kill her and the Eternal Warrior. And so now the Eternal Warrior has brought her out to a field where there's nothing there, no one to die, because that's what's been happening. People have been dying. So they brought them out to this field in the middle of nowhere, and she's reading the book again. And towards the very end of her reading the book, they kill one of the creatures that the necromancer has controlled, and she finds that connection. And she realizes that it's just a young boy named David who's scared, misses his mom, and is being controlled by the necromancer. And so they make that connection. So now that the future Geomancer that's stuck in our time knows that there's the current Geomancer isn't trying to do this bad thing, but instead is being controlled by the necromancer. And so now the Eternal Warrior has figured out where he is. So him and Tamara are going to go to find them, to save David, and to kill the necromancer. So I'm really looking forward to the next issue. Issue #4, it's going to be the end of it. You also have The Death of Harbinger is still going to come out. So check that out. I love Valiant, so that's a cool series to me. I'm really excited about the whole Book of Death series going on. Kind of sad that the way Valiant put it out there. Like our store had qualified to get the Book of Death for the Geomancer, and we were allocated it. Come on, Valiant. We're believing in you, Valiant, to put it out there with a trade paperback. So please don't let us down. All right, next up, Sinestro #15. Now, Sinestro had been working with, I'm sorry, yeah, Sinestro have been working with Lobo. If you have been reading the comic, you see that Lobo is hunting down the Lantern Corps, what's left of them. You have the Green Lanterns that are, of course, gone. So you have Lobo hunting down the Blue Lanterns. And in this comic, he's going to find Saint Walker. And he obtains Saint Walker, he gets him onto the ship, and he's taking him back to Sinestro. And he takes him back to Sinestro, and Sinestro's showing Saint Walker, look, I'm not the bad guy. I'm trying to help us. I want to police the world now, or police the galaxy. Now that the Green Lanterns are gone, it falls upon me. It is my responsibility to oversee the galaxy. And so that's what that's what Sinestro is trying to do. And he's explaining this to Saint Walker. It sounds all good and well, and Saint Walker's almost sold on it. He's like, yes, I want to help you, but my blue ring only works with the green ring. I can't help you. And so Sinestro says, okay, I understand. I have some scientists here. They're going to dissect you and figure out how that neural link works, because I believe in the greater good, and you might have to die for that greater good. That's Sinestro. Sinestro in a nutshell. That's the way his character is. You think he's going to be a good guy, and he almost in a way is, but in his own way, if you know what I mean. It's that whole Sinestro complex. He's doing all these bad things. Originally, he did all these bad things when he became the Yellow Lantern to make Hal Jordan a better Green Lantern. That's the Sinestro mentality. He does bad things to make someone else a better person. All right, so that's Sinestro, issue number 15. Check it out. It's pretty awesome. Next up, Grayson number 12. Now, Grayson has gotten away from Spiral. He's doing his own thing again, and he's going to see Batman. And if you've been keeping up with the Batman series, you know that Bruce Wayne is, for the most part, no longer. Bruce Wayne in issue number 40, Batman issue number 40, he was believed to be dead. What happened is he got a coma and lost his memory of everything. So he doesn't know who he is, he doesn't know what he did, and so that's why James Gordon is now Batman. He's taken that role, the mantle as Batman, and he's working with the GCPD and taking care of Gotham City as Batman. So it's a pretty cool series, if you check that one out, Batman series. But this one, it finds Dick going back to Gotham to talk to all the Bat family. And so he's going back, he wanted to see Bruce, he wanted to make sure everything was fine with Bruce. He goes, he sees Bruce, he's talking to Bruce. Alfred dresses him up so he doesn't look like himself, he looks like someone else completely. And as they're having this conversation, someone breaks in and knocks out Bruce Wayne and tells Dick Grayson, hey, you need to come back to Spiral. You think you left, but you never do leave. And so he's forced to go back to Spiral, but before he does, he goes and sees everyone else. He goes and sees Jason Todd, he sees Tim Drake, he sees Damian, he sees Barbara, and he tells them all, you know, what they meant to him, and he leaves them all a clue. And so they're working together at the very end of the comic. He breaks the code that Spiral has to make the faces not seen, where it just looks like a giant spiral. So he breaks that code, and so now he knows who the new Spiral, the head of Spiral is. And so that's him working with his Bat family. So it's a pretty good comic. Really enjoy it. I like Grayson. Grayson's one of my favorite series altogether has been out this past year. So if you haven't been reading Grayson, it's out on trade paperback. Pick it up. All right, next one up. Power Up, issue number 3. I don't know if you've been reading this. It's a pretty entertaining, lighthearted, comedic comic. That's what this is. It's about some people that gain some powers. About 3 different people that gain power, and a fish. 3 different people and a fish. Let me correct that. That gain superpowers, and they're fighting whatever happens to come upon them. It's very lighthearted. So what we have is the guy who dresses up like a Sailor Moon, a soccer mom who has super strength, and then the other girl, we haven't truly figured out her powers yet. We know that she goes into this trance and kind of just punches stuff. So yeah, that's what she is. And in this comic, it comes at the very end, the alien that I guess lost the gems that gave them the power is coming back to collect what is his. And they defeat him and say, no, you can't have it because you're a bad guy. So that's it. It's a very simple comic, very easy to read, very easy to understand. So that's that one. Next up, for our kids comic, Scooby Doo number 12. Now this is a great comic because it's got Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. And also guest appearing Catwoman and Batgirl. What? I know, that whole thing, all the Gotham Sirens in the Scooby Doo comic. So it's a pretty cool comic. Actually, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy hire the Mystery Inc. to go help them solve this mystery where these ghosts are haunting them because they stole a certain item and they think that it's a ghost haunting them. It turns out that it's Selena. She wanted whatever it was that they stole, and so she fights them at the very end to get it back. And then Barbara Gordon busts in at the very end and beats them all up, locks them all up. So it's a cool story. It's a great little read. If you have kids, they're gonna like it. It's a good way to get them in. It's a good segue into comics. All right, so that is it for this week. Next week's comics, we're gonna have Aliens vs. Zombies #3. This is a 5-part series. It's been pretty interesting so far. It's a cool concept. If you haven't read it, what's stopping you? It prepares you for the alien or zombie invasion. Get out and get it. Aliens vs. Zombie, issue #3. Aquaman #44, and this is after Aquaman has found his mother. So it's really a good story so far. A lot of people bash on Aquaman. Read his comic. He's one of the coolest dudes out there. Also, Archie #3. I don't know if you've been reading it from the Archie series. It just started over again. Archie's been a good series so far. It makes him more relevant to today's times, puts him in a high school for today. He has the same problems that he did back then, but in a relevant sense. So you really need to check it out. It's a cool story so far. That's Archie #3. And then DC's putting out a lot of their annuals coming up next week. They're going to have the Batman annual, the Batman Arkham Knight annual, the Grayson annual. Green Lantern's also going to have his annual. And then Suicide Squad, the new Suicide Squad, is also going to have their annual. If you're not familiar with what an annual is as it states in the name, it's an annual comic that comes out that has a big story arc reach that introduces you to a new story arc, and it plugs it in to the comic series. So if you pick up, say, issue number 47 of Batman, and you're wondering, where did this come from? You missed the annual. If you pick up the annual, it'll show you what the new story arc is going to be. So that's what annuals do. They kind of give you a new storyline, a new beginning. It's kind of like a part 1 of a 3-part movie. You need to get that part 1 to figure out what the heck is going on. And annuals, they're a little bit larger, more to read, and they cost $1 or $2 extra, but they're worth the read. They're worth picking up. All right, so also we're going to have Cavalry, the 50 Years of S.H.I.E.L.D. issue number, or I guess the one-shot for Agent May coming out next week. Like we've said, the Fury one from this week was amazing. The Quake one was really good. The Mockingbird one was good. The S.H.I.E.L.D. one was really good. They haven't been a disappointment so far, and they're only one-shots, so pick them up. They're worth the pickup. Then also Book of Death, Fall of Harbinger, another Valiant title. I'm loving these Book of Death series. It's again, as the name states, it's the death of all the Valiant characters. It shows you how they die. So it's really cool to read that. Also, Disciples #4 is coming out. We talked about it in a previous video about how it's a couple of people rescuing some other people from a planet, and they've lost almost their entire team, just down to 2 people now. Actually, down to 1 person now, saving an old man and a young lady. So that's Disciples #4 coming out. Also, Drifter #8, another sci-fi comic book. Check that out. It's a good read. Also, the finale for Ghostbusters Get Real, where it has the Ghostbusters from the comic series and the Ghostbusters from the TV series, from the cartoon show, together in one. So they're playing off each other's characters. It's a really cool story, and this is going to be the conclusion coming out next week. Also, Hell Hydra #3, Inferno #5. They're both tie-ins to the Secret Wars Battle World. Infinite Loop #6. Now this is going to be the conclusion of Infinite Loop. This has been a really cool story so far. You can probably pick up the trade paperback in the next month or so, or you can try getting the comics individually. I mean, they should still be out there. It's a really good story. It's kind of like Interlooper time traveling, and she messes with the timelines, and it's really worth a read. It's hard to explain. If you watch that movie with Bruce Willis, where he went back in the past to kill the Joseph Gordon-Levitt self of him, that's kind of what it is. All right. Also, Gem and the Holograms is giving out her annual, and this is, she just came out with the comic. It's been a good comic so far. I wish that the movie could be the comic. It's a good comic. It really brings out what Gem was from the 80s. The movie, we'll have to wait and see. All right. Munchkin #9 is coming out. as well as Rick and Morty #6. A lot of people have been picking up the series. It's a cool series. Also, Sandman Overture is concluding with issue #6 on that. So that's what we got coming out next week. A whole bunch of good reads. Kingsman #2. Have you seen the original Kingsman? It was a great movie, a really cool spy movie. They're making a part 2 to it. Sounds interesting. It's going to be a good spy beat 'em up movie, regardless if it has a dumb plot or not. It's going to be worth seeing for the action alone. Also, they're making a King Kong origin story, and it's going to be starring Tom Hiddleston, that guy, you know. And it's also going to have John Goodman as one of the main actors. So it's a King Kong origin story. And now I don't think that John Goodman is going to play King Kong. He probably could, but he's not going to. It's going to be an origin story of King Kong on the island. John Goodman is going to be one of the main characters leading the expedition to go find King Kong. So those are kind of the 2 movies that are coming out. Also, this Saturday is International or National Batman Day. So get down to your local comic book shop. They're bound to have something going on towards Batman theme related stuff. Here at Black Force Comics, we're going to have a costume contest. We're going to offer discounts on Batman related products. It's going to be a good time. So come out and check us out this Saturday, or go to your local comic book shop. Check them out. It's going to be a good time to save on Batman products, Batman items, get all the graphic novels up to to volume #6. It should be coming out next week. So get out and check it out. All right, we'll see you next time.